and welcome back to another episode of the Real Conversations podcast. I'm your host, Jacob O'Connor. Real Conversations is a podcast for those dedicated to doing hard things and living a meaningful life. Today, if you're watching the video, we are live from my basement with my cousin, Primo, Evan O'Connor.
What's good, cousin? How you doing?
Good, how you doing?
Sore. Good.
Did you do anything special this weekend?
Yeah, Saturday and Sunday it was a good day.
Just kind of took it easy?
Yeah. Exercised a little bit, but nothing too far out of the ordinary for us.
Yeah. This was the Tunnel Hill 100, started Saturday at 7 a.m. So I came back to St. Louis for it. Evan came down from the family farm and came out to run. And then we'll talk about it too, but you had a lot more people run it with you. But first, congratulations. You have a big life update, something you'd like to share with the listeners?
Well, there's two exciting things happened. One this weekend, but a couple of weeks ago, proposed to my now fiance. And it was kind of crazy. She actually did say yes. So that was pretty exciting. But then, this weekend, got the 100-miler Ultramarathon under my belt. Actually on my belt right now, if you're watching the video. Check this puppy out. Yeah.
You're the first guest I've ever had to stand up and flash a belt on camera. That's awesome.
I feel like we did that for after 52.
I've never worn my buckle.
Oh, no kidding.
No. Usually I just put them in a closet somewhere.
They're really good at collecting dust, but it's good for a day or two to really just wear it. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, congratulations on your engagement. I was equally surprised that she said yes, but very happy for you.
Yeah.
So this weekend, Saturday, I mean, you didn't have much time to prep at all. I guess this episode, in my opinion, just to kind of set the stage, is going to be like your perspective because you didn't have much time to train, my perspective because of all the things I have going on, and then our actual experience of the race and kind of our thoughts and reflections.
Okay.
Is my layout for it.
Yep.
Maybe jump into like, what did your training actually look like for this 100-miler?
Okay. Yeah. So I'm sure everybody that's listening has listened to other podcasts that I've done, been here a couple times.
Just a couple, like 12 times.
Yeah. So I work in the summer as a wildland firefighter. Very busy doing that all summer. I really don't have any time to train at all. Tunnel Hill 100 has always been on our radar, at least this year. Really became a conversation in August, September, something like that. And so by the time I actually signed up and fire season was done, so I was able to train, I had 6 total weeks to train, so 4 to run and then 2 to taper, which is, if you don't know what a taper is, just drastically cutting mileage to let your body heal before the race. So really just 4 weeks to train. Ideally, you would have probably 4 to 6 months to train for it, but that's all that I had, so I made it work. My peak week for mileage was 30 miles.
It's a big week, man.
Yeah, longest run was 16, so I had everything going in my favor.
Yeah, it's crazy how little time you had and the fact that you were still willing to do it. Like, I think that's kind of the fun part of the sport is it really is a wild card. Like, there's so many different sizes and shapes of people that are out there. I mean, you and I got passed by an older woman whose hair wasn't moving while she was running and looked like she's about to pick up a grandchild after she got done with it. Like, it was just the most casual thing ever for her. Mm-hmm. And then there's people like us that are in pretty good shape that are dying at different points. And you really, like, there's so many different variants of types of people that do it. And there's no correlation between who finishes and who doesn't really.
Yeah, it's just...
Hey guys, Jacob here. Real quick before we get back to the episode, I just want to take a quick second and say, if you guys are enjoying this episode, please make sure to share the link with a friend. You may have noticed I don't run any ads in the podcast. In fact, I don't make any money off the podcast. It's quite the contrary. Over the past 5 years, I've invested a lot of time, money, and effort into the growth of the show, trying to continually upgrade the equipment, bring on better guests, and just improve the overall quality of the podcast. So if you guys are enjoying this episode or if you enjoyed previous episodes, please share the link with a friend. Sending it to 1 or 2 people makes a huge difference for me on the back end. As always, I appreciate your guys' support. Let's get back into the episode.
Yeah, mindset, body. I mean, there's so many factors, like you're saying.
Yeah, absolutely.
So what did your training look like?
Yeah, so I think my training was, it probably pretty solid 2.5, 3 months of like actual running consistency with it.
Yeah.
I will say, I think doing it while opening the restaurant was a detriment to the training because I wasn't sleeping as much as I should have been. I had better mileage than you did for sure, but my biggest week was like, I think 60 miles total was my biggest week. And I didn't have the volume I would have liked to have had. I didn't have the recovery I would have liked to have had. And then the big piece that really kind of bummed me out was I ended up getting pretty sick last week. And then I wasn't better on Tuesday with the race on Saturday. So I went back to the doctor and got diagnosed with an ear infection on Tuesday. So they gave me like a bunch of medicine and stuff. And I started taking that to try and get everything back to 100 by Saturday. But I think it was definitely a detriment to have worn myself down that much and then headed into the race, which sure. I mean, I know you were tired too, and you've got, your list of excuses that you didn't listen to. So I'm not trying to make an excuse. I think if I'm just making an actual observation, I think likely I just was a bit worn down more than I should have been going into it.
More mentally or physically? Or just a solid combination?
I think just a combination, honestly. Yeah.
Gotcha.
So race morning, like what was your mindset? What, like going into it, how are you feeling? What were you thinking?
I got, just a little more I want to touch on with the training.
Okay.
So most people probably have no idea what it takes to train for an ultramarathon. Like that's a pretty foreign concept. And so one of the golden rules is never increase weekly mileage by more than 10%. And then your peak week should be about 80% of the race for the whole week. So ideal training plan for both of us would have been probably 4 to 6 months of slowly increasing mileage and peaking around 80 miles a week. Just a little background.
That's definitely a good note. The 10% I knew, honestly, I don't know if I realized it was 80% of the weekly mileage. So of an 80 miles in 1 week. I don't know if I realized that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So my volume was definitely a little low on that front too then.
Yeah. Not bad though.
Okay. So race morning, where was your head at?
It was oddly calm. We've done, at least I've done quite a few races at this point, of all different sorts, and all the pre-race jitters I'm just used to, so it really wasn't a factor. I knew that it's not a fast race. It's just a grind for as long as you can. And so it's really just it's just pretty calm. Like you just have to be in the moment. You don't really want to get hyped up. Like It should just be a very mellow start to the day. You're starting out by maybe walking or a slow run, just really warming up into it. And it's just a very laid back event. It's still super exciting to cross that start line and let the next 24 hours of your life become memorable.
Yeah. I think the frame of mind that we were both in, we talked about this a lot, was like, we're just waiting for the race to start. Like when they shoot the gun, you start at 7 a.m. The race doesn't really start then. Like we fall into our cadence. We ran 2 miles, walked to half was our splits that we were doing. And like, sure, it hurt throughout the first 50 miles, but I think in the back of our head, that race didn't really start until the second half, which is whenever you're fully like in the pain cave and on the back 50%. So my whole thing was like, I was pretty calm too. In fact, I slept really well the night before, which never happens. Yeah. But I think it was just because I wasn't concerned about the first 50. I was just like, literally, let's just wait it out. Let's just get to the pain cave and then go from there.
Yeah. You should talk more about that. We talked about this during the race, how our mindsets were so different. Because 2 years ago, this is the same race where we both did our first ultramarathon, 50 miler. So talk about just how mentally it felt so different knowing that we were going to have to double that distance.
Yeah. So, I mean, doing a marathon is an intimidating thing. And like you get all hyped up before and the gun starts and like you're immediately trying to nail your splits and dial in. And like it is a fast race. And then going to do a 50 miler, it was like, okay, I mean, this is almost double a marathon. This is absurd. What are we thinking? And the way this course is set up, it's out 26 miles to the south and then back to the start line and then 24 miles to the north. Is it not those cardinal directions?
13 out, 13 back.
I'm doing the cumulative number. So it's 26 miles total when you're back at the start line, and then 24 miles total when you're at 100.
Correct.
Yeah. So anyways, it is out one direction, and then you end up at the start line, and then out the other direction, and then you finish at the start line. And that doing the 50 is just like you go out the one direction, you get back to the start line, you're 26 miles in, and it's like, oh my gosh, this is a marathon. Like that's a legitimate distance.
Mm-hmm.
And then knowing you have to go back out there, and there's like the Tunnel Hill turning point, which is 3/4 of the race end of whichever one you're doing, whether it's 50 or 100, you're going to hit that 3/4 mark anyways. That's not true for a 100 miler. We are slightly delusional right now still. We are fresh off this. Anyways, continuing on. Like knowing that you have to go do 24 miles on top of that was so intimidating. And I felt like we were just so much more worried about the 50 miler than we were the 100.
Yeah, 50 this time through, once we got there, it was like, all right, now the race begins. And up until that point, it was just a waiting game. You had to like buy your way in to the actual race with a 50-mile warm-up.
A casual 50-mile warm-up. So what did nutrition look like for you?
As much as you can.
Yeah.
You're talking race day, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, nutrition and hydration is, I would say, one of the biggest factors to if you finish or not. If you're not eating, you're not going to finish. Same with drinking. And on-course nutrition that they provide is pretty stellar at this race. They've got breakfast sandwiches, grilled cheeses, soups, lots of
really good breakfast sandwiches.
Yeah, candies, chocolate, different sorts of pops or sodas wherever you're from.
Yeah. If you're that far south in Illinois, it's soda.
Oh man, I had somewhere around 1,500 calories of mini muffins.
You were smacking mini muffins, man.
It was good. Late into the night, I turned to a lot of running gels because that's all that I could slurp down. Like I just couldn't fathom eating another bite. I was so tired of eating.
Yeah.
It was rough.
Yeah.
Yeah. Some honey buns, all the good stuff, whatever you want.
Yeah. Honestly, I think we can speed through the first 50 miles pretty quick, and I think the back 50 is the more eventful. So I ended up making it 85 miles, which is a new personal PR. My previous one was 80 miles, but no one really cares about a PR whenever you didn't finish the race. But you ended up being able to push through to 100. Like, how was that back 50 for you? Take us through kind of that event cycle for you.
Yeah, so starting at, we'll just say mile 50, we had our friend Carolina come out to pace us. She's a stellar ultra runner, great friend.
And she's been on the podcast twice.
Incredible runner or pacer. And so she took us from 50 to 76, which was a huge boost for us. Miles 50 to 60 were a dream.
I don't even know how we have that good of a 10-mile stretch.
It was just
50 to 60 was the easiest of the whole race, in my opinion.
It was so fun, effortless. It was downpouring, like aggressively raining that whole time, and we are just floating.
We are soaked, but we're just laughing, eating honey buns in the rain, and
we're knowing that a lot of people are dropping out of the 100 because of the rain.
Yeah,
and we're just going through, just
making jokes, and
it was incredible. So those were really good. Probably at right around 60. I started to go dig into my pain cave right there. Really couldn't keep food down for 60 to probably 70. So for about 10 miles, I couldn't really eat too much or drink a whole lot. And that just put me into a dark place. I was hurting, getting a little cold. It was, the miles were adding up at that point. And I was in a bad place. It wasn't the worst I've been in, but I just didn't talk a whole lot. I was just like, all right, just got to keep moving. Let's just get this done.
You were very dead.
Yeah, but luckily I'm glad I just kept going.
How did you get yourself out of that low point?
I just didn't want to quit. I promised myself that I was going to finish this no matter what. And I knew all the pain that I was feeling was just artificial pain or superficial, whatever, where give it a day or two and it's going to be gone. but the buckle remains forever. So I just had to keep going. I saw no other option. I'd legitimately never even considered quitting, which was pretty cool.
That's sweet. That is really cool because like being with you during that low stretch, I mean, you looked pretty bad.
Yeah.
And I was pretty concerned about you, and you just kept pushing through, and it seemed like about the 76-mile mark, like once we got back to the start line to go out on that last leg, it seemed like you had done a kind of 180 and were in a much better place mentally. Is what it looked like from the outside, at least.
Yeah, I'll dive into that more, but yeah, let's get an update from you up to 50 to 76. What was that like for you? You went through some swings there.
50 to 65 was incredible. I mean, it was a great 15-mile stretch. I feel like energy was high. I was happy, and I felt like I was on cloud nine, honestly. And then, it's hard to put my finger on exactly what it was, but I think we did a pace change, like the distance to walk ratio. And I think that threw me off a little bit because we were then covering less distance. We was taking a longer time to cover more distance. And I don't know, just things kind of compounded. My knee was really swelling, which is odd. I've never really had knee issues while I've run. And it was just swelling. At least it felt like it was swelling like crazy. The pressure was like bending. It was just killing me. Mm. And then I don't know if something went off with my nutrition, that I was peeing an awful lot. Mm-hmm. Like every mile to 2 miles, I had like a completely full bladder, and I don't know what was going on with that. And I just started to not feel good, like not healthy. I was not feeling good, like myself, if that makes any sense. Yeah. So going back to that, probably started about 65 or 68 or somewhere like close to that start line at the 76-mile mark. So by the time we got back at 76, I was in a very bad place.
I only really saw that from you after the aid station at about 70. 70 to 76. Something changed and you went ghost mode. Like,
yeah, maybe it was 70.
Asking you questions and there was nothing. It was like, where is Jacob? Where was Scoob?
Yeah, it was about the 70-mile mark though.
That's to be expected though when you're. How far into the race were we at that point? How many hours? Roughly.
I mean, we were making great time. We were probably 16 hours.
Probably something like.
Yeah, probably about 16 hours.
Yeah.
So we come into the big aid station at mile 76. Where are you at?
At 76, I knew that I had to change something.
Well, I feel like we should preface this too. I feel like this is obvious. Up until that point, we'd run every mile together. So like when we say where were you at, or like
we'd been together.
We watched each other. We were together. But for you guys, like where were you at mentally?
Yeah, I knew that it didn't matter what pace we had because at that point we had 11 or 12 hours.
Yeah, it's probably about 12 hours.
Yeah, I think about 12 hours to finish the last 24 miles, which is very feasible. I knew I could crawl that.
Yeah.
So I got into that aid station, changed my shoes, put on some fresh ones, had some food, just took a minute there and kind of gathered our bearings. And I knew, I don't know what exactly it was, but as soon as I stepped outside of that aid station to start running again, I knew that I wanted to show that race who I was. Like I'd been more conservative knowing that there was a lot of miles to go up until that point. But at that point, I knew that I just wanted to see who I was. I wanted to figure some things out. And we walked for like 500 feet together. And then I said, hey, I think I'm just going to go. I'm just going to go run my race. And I took off. I went back to run 1, walk a half, which was more than what we had been doing. And for the mile I was running, I was doing like 10 or sub 10 minute miles.
Jeez.
Like I was hurting, but I was like, I have to show it what I can do. So I did that all the way up until mile 90. Like I was flying past. At this point, there's not a lot of people that you see, but I mean, I was crushing people. I don't know, because I was pushing so hard. One, I was using different muscles of my legs, which did feel really nice. But mentally, I just knew I had my swag back. I was like texting my fiance and other people who were running with me, and I was like, I got my swag back. I'm just crushing miles, listening to music. I'm singing out loud very aggressively. So
out of tune 100%.
Oh yeah, it doesn't matter though. So the people that are out there who witnessed that, I'm sorry that you had to see me doing that or hear it rather. But man, I was just floating in pain, if that makes sense, for those like 15 miles.
A heaven of pain.
Yeah, it was incredible. And then from that point on, I felt like I'd figured out what I was capable of, and that I'd earned my spot there. And yeah, I'll talk about the last 10 a little bit later.
Okay. Yeah, when I came out of that aid station, I was in a very bad place, and you said you wanted to go on your own. I was like, good for you. I'm glad that you're not, because I didn't want you waiting around on me, because I didn't want to affect your race or slow you down or anything. So I was glad that you felt good enough to take off on your own. I wish that my friend Quinn came out to pace, and then my mom came out for a couple miles at that point. I wish Quinn would have gone with you. I feel like it would have been good for you to have had a pacer, but I'm glad that you didn't end up needing a pacer.
No, it was better for me to not have a pacer.
Yeah,
actually.
Well, the race had really thinned out. It was dark. We were heading into the woods. I was thinking like, man, it would be nice to have someone with him just in case something goes on.
That would have slowed me down somehow. Just because I was it sounds weird, but because I was by myself, like all of my training for the most part has been by myself. Like over the last several years, almost all my training, it's just me. So I'm used to being in pain by myself, and I really thrived being by myself. We didn't really talk about it much when we split right after that aid station, but I think we both knew that it was going to be a good thing for us. At least I did.
You're like, I'm breaking up with you.
And yeah, otherwise we were just going to feed off each other's negativity and bring each other down, which I don't think would have helped either of us.
That's not a positive thing?
No.
Oh, darn. Sounded wonderful.
And yeah, I was hoping that you didn't try to send a pacer with me, actually. Okay. And so I'm glad that didn't happen.
Yeah.
There were several miles I thought I was lost. I did see some things that were definitely not there, like a little bit of hallucinating. Mentally wasn't always super clear, but I was good. It was fine.
I love how that's just like the prerequisite for ultramarathons. It's just like, yep, that's just how it goes. Just kind of expect that to happen.
Yeah, it is what it is.
Yeah, mine was just the worst 9-mile string ever, because that was 76, and I stopped at 85, and it was just every step I felt like I had to earn it. It was just terrible. It was absolutely horrible. I don't have a lot of good depth or insight as to exactly what was going on, but it just, yeah.
That'll happen. 100 miles is a long way.
Yeah, I don't even know. And then
so there's, for you though, there's still something really big to be said for setting big goals and coming short, because then even if you miss the mark, you're still winning in a way. Like you didn't hit your goal, but you're dreaming big, and even if you come up a little short, you're still cooking.
I know, and I hear what you're saying, but I think you also know it's just frustrating.
Oh yeah,
losing
isn't fun.
I don't know why I can't get over that hurdle, or why every time it's just, yeah, just gonna have to do it again in the future now.
You're gonna have to sit in a sauna for several hours and think about why.
I honestly am going to have to.
Yeah,
it's gonna have to happen.
Well, I'll be there to pace you next time.
Yeah, I literally just, because I feel like I'm pretty good at pushing through, and I don't know what happened this time. Like at 85, it was just like there was no shot, and I understand, like, just mentally just don't think that way, and like just push through and just deal with it. But I am at such a loss for words for what even happened there. I don't even know.
Yeah, the silence is fitting there.
Yeah. So anyways, take us through the end of your race.
So we have to add a little bit more context to our story now. So month and a half ago, I convinced my mom, dad, fiance, and uncle to do the 50 miler. They have no no ultramarathon experience.
Except for your mother. Shout out Aunt Gina.
She did a 50 with us last year, just out of the blue. She's tough. And I know you're talking about Ghost Pebble, aren't you?
Mm-hmm.
And so they all did the 50, which is incredible. Like, they hardly had any time to train, and so proud of them. They crushed it, man. It's so cool to see that. See, like, our family and little community winning like that.
Every single person that you convinced to sign up finished.
It's crazy.
I mean, that is so cool.
Yeah.
I thought it was really cool too for like, you're engaged and it's like, how do you find someone that does hard things and shares that mentality? And I mean, this does not, in my opinion, seem like Lauren's cup of cake. Like, she doesn't do ultramarathons. She doesn't have a background of doing ultramarathons.
Cup of cake?
Cup of...
I think you said cup of cake.
Guys, I've already explained it. I am.
We were up for a long time.
I'm delusional right now. But anyway, all right, I'm trying to compliment you, man. Just gonna... all right. Well, you know what? I guess let's finish my comment because this is for Lauren. This is for Lauren, not for you. I was gonna say... She's never done this before, and for her to sign up because she knows how much you care about it, for her to want to push herself, and for her to finish and see it through, I think is super cool.
Yeah, that was incredible. We did our long runs together, and yeah, had a really awesome time connecting over that. And now having her finished, she's already thinking about the next one. It's
cup of cake. Cool. What was I trying to say?
Cup of tea.
Her slice of cake? Is that one, or is it just a cup of tea?
I don't know.
This is not her slice of cake.
It could be a new one. Here's your cup of cake.
Oh, man.
Okay, so there's the backstory. They were all doing the 50. At mile 40, my mom actually called it quits because she had a lot of medical problems going on. She wasn't able to, won't get into all the details, but wasn't able to eat or drink for double-digit miles, like a long time. And so she was in a bad place. It really hurt her to have to quit because she's gritty and wanted to finish.
Yeah.
So when I was at mile 50 at that aid station, she came in and I was like, "What are you doing?" And she said, I quit. I can't do it. And I could just like see it in her eyes. I'm like, "Mom, your race isn't over yet. You've got 30 hours.
Yeah.
You go back to the hotel. Take your time, shower, sleep, eat, drink, and you're going to come out and finish the last 10 with me." And she's like, I hear you, buddy. I don't know if I can. I said, "Mom, your race is not done." And she was like I don't know how to say that. She was like, she wanted to believe what I was saying, but wasn't quite there.
She's a little hesitant.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, she's super physically exhausted, and because of her medical stuff, like just not all the way there. So then she went back to the hotel and did shower, sleep for a couple hours, was able to keep some food and water down. And then she texted me while I'm still running. I found this out maybe mile 70, something like that. And she said, "I'm coming out to finish with you."
Nice.
Yes. So when I got to mile 90, she was waiting there with me, or waiting for me, and we finished the last 10 together. And man, that was incredible. Just being able to both like push through and finish it together. And so I crossed the finish line to get to 100 miles in 24 hours, 59 minutes and some odd seconds.
Incredible.
Yeah.
What a cool combined experience of struggle for you to have with your mom. Like, what a cool experience.
So cool. Yeah. But we were talking obviously a whole lot, just try not to get into a pain cave.
Yeah.
And I'm like, when I cross the finish line, I don't know what I'm going to want to do. Like, am I just going to want to cry or sleep or go to the bathroom, or I don't know. Once you get past that maybe 20-hour mark, I think if I saw a leaf fall the right way, I could have just cried. I don't know why.
Just beautiful.
There's just so much going on. Your body doesn't know what's happening. Yeah, it's an experience. So yeah, crossed the finish line with her. Still found a way to sprint across the finish line. I felt like I was sprinting. Video evidence has shown that it was indeed a very slow run.
Your body was moving, but not at a pace that was aggressive.
But I thought I was flying, and being able to finish that it's good.
I was so proud of you, man. Like I saw what shape you were in at 65, and you kept going. And that last 10 miles, because we all hung around and waited to see you finish. That last 10 miles took you forever.
Yeah, I think I could have run a lot more of it, but Mom and I just decided to walk. We had like 11 hours at that point.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't have anything to prove anymore. Like, I already proved to myself with those 15 miles from 76 to 91 that like I'm worthy of being here. Like, I already proved to myself that I can do it. So we're just going to walk and chat a whole lot and make it really fun.
Just kind of lollygagging.
Yeah, like we really were. I'm like, we really could run this and make it go by faster, but we were just having a good time.
Yeah. Well, I'm very proud of you, Evan.
Thank you.
It was sweet to see you finish.
It was crazy. Yeah.
Especially with the lack of training. That was awesome.
Yeah, I wanted to be done.
Yeah. I wanted to be done as well. I felt concerned that I was going to pass out, which I've never had that during an ultra either.
Yeah, I had that too, where I would like look over my shoulder and then get so dizzy. I learned that churning was incredibly difficult. So I'm glad this was a straight course, because if there was a course with a lot of churning, I think that would have made it exponentially harder. Like, I would have passed out for sure.
What do you think that was? Just like fatigue, nutrition, like?
Yeah, just cumulative fatigue for sure.
How would you address that differently next time?
Just don't mind it and keep going.
Like, is that a caffeine thing? Is that ketones? Is that carbs? Is it more water?
I don't think there's. I think
you're supposed to be the nutrition guy here.
Give me something. It's the fact that you're running for 24 hours.
Is that not a standard operating thing?
I think it's normal.
Yeah, it's normal.
So I ended up finishing. I did the math and ended up running somewhere right around or just over 2/3 of the race. And the rest was walking, which I'm really happy with.
Yeah, that's sweet.
Yeah.
Very solid.
Considering my longest training run was 16 miles.
That is a good testament, though, to it. A lot of it just being mental.
Yeah.
Like literally just showing up and putting yourself in the situation and then executing.
Yeah. It's kind of funny if we think back to maybe July when we had started to talk about this more. And you're like, how's the weekly mileage? And I'm like, well, I was able to run 1 mile this week. But mentally, I've done a ton of training. And it turns out that I actually was doing some mental training there, and it worked out. It checked out.
Yeah, I remember one of my longer runs was like a 15 or 20 mile run. I called you, and we were trying to talk through like my training plan and your training plan. And I was like, Evan, like literally just do everything mental. Like just lock in, read good material, listen to good material, practice your mental thought patterns, mental frameworks. Like just come into this as mentally strong as you can possibly be.
Mm-hmm.
And you did that.
It worked. Yeah. It was such a cool case. Like one of my mantras I'll say to myself, it's also been seen quite a few times on my Instagram story in the sauna, prepare the body, callous the mind. And definitely didn't have as much time as I should have to prepare the body, but mind was calloused enough that I didn't care. That's
pretty sweet.
Yeah.
How can you callous the mind without preparing the body first? Like for you not to have as much time to train, because like the action of training can produce the consequence or result of the mind callousing, and it like reinforces the thought pattern that I can do hard things because physically you've shown that. So if you have to switch that in the reverse, where I don't have time to physically prove it to myself, but mentally I need to be prepared for that, like kind of just share with people how you went through that and what you can do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's kind of difficult initially to start building up those wins, as you're kind of saying. The biggest things for me were past experiences. One, the past wins that I've had of other races or trials or whatever. And I mean, everyone in their life has had trials that they've overcome. And so what I really exaggerate those wins that I've had. Even if it was something small, I'll just keep convincing myself it was a little bit bigger than it was. And over time, it ends up seeming like a big win.
The Papa O effect.
Yeah. And so I'm basically lying to myself that I had a huge win. Then I'm like, well, if I did that, I can do this. The other one that was so pivotal for my whole mental framework was, so we've tried 100 before together, the Shippy 100 miler. I tapped out at 56 or so. I think you made it farther than I did. And I just thought about what made me quit that race. I thought about that so much, like an unhealthy amount of obsessive thought about that. And really it was the fact that I was thinking too big. Like I was thinking of, okay, I can still move a little bit right now, but at this pace, I'm never going to finish. So what's the point of still trying and going through more pain when really I should have just thought like 5-10 seconds at a time of just keep moving. Like I thought that I would never get over that hurdle of pain, but you'll pretty much always do. And so I made that. That was the biggest part of my mental training, was just thinking about why I failed, obsessing over that. And so I knew going into this race that I was going to have to set very small goals once I got into that pain cave. Maybe it's like, okay, just make it 1 mile. Maybe it's make it to the next tree. Just as long as I can keep moving, I'm going to finish.
I really like that. I feel like obsessing over things like that gets a bad rap, but when someone comes up short or something bad happens and you ask someone like, well, what can you different or why didn't it work? And I know right now I'm not having answers, but I will have answers eventually. Mm-hmm. But I just hate when people are like, oh, I don't really know. And they just don't. It's like, how are you going to address or what are you going to do differently next time? And I feel like just continually reintroducing that thought pattern of like, why? And then eventually you start to formulate a plan, you start to get new insights. And like, I really feel like that's how you break through a barrier and overcome something that beats you up or challenged you the first time around. Because if you don't do that, you just let it win. And then it's just always unanswered and you never have any sort of resolution to that.
Yeah. Yeah, the first year and a half after we failed that first 100, I was convinced that the problem was my knee. And so that was the physical thing I was trying to fix. And it really was just a mental thing that I was thinking too big picture. I just needed to narrow it in. I was thinking like, oh, if I hurt my knee again, like I'm not going to be able to walk for years. But going into this race, I told so many people that I don't care if this is the last time I'm ever able to run in my life. If I can make it to 100, it's worth it. Mm-hmm. And yeah, I think I'll be able to run again. We'll see.
You're moving pretty well for 100 miles, so I'm confident you will be.
Yeah, sleep is a crazy thing, or as I call it, logging off of Earth.
Logging off of Earth. Last night was crazy, man. It was I don't even remember falling asleep. I just woke up. I was like, whoa, where even am I right now?
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So recovery wise, let's touch on that just a tad. What's your plan and strategy? You still went 85 miles, which is freaking crazy.
It's nothing. My recovery plan is to wrap up the podcast equipment, upload this, hop in my car, drive back to Wichita and get to the restaurant.
Nice. Yeah. What's waiting for you at the restaurant?
Just tasks, things to do, a never-ending to-do list.
Do you think having all of that in the back of your brain during this race weighed on you? Like knowing that there was a lot of little things for you to do?
Yeah, I think it weighed. I mean, I think it was a little bit of like, I would say I probably felt a little bit guilty being here. And that wasn't pushed upon me by others. I mean, shout out John. He's great. He was like, go get it. He called me, texted awesome. My mom for updates. Like he's 100% supportive and on board for me. And I'd do the same for him. So, I mean, that was more of an intrinsic feeling, but also I also think that like knowing that people had to make sacrifices for me to be able to do this also really put a lot of internal pressure on myself too. And so that
part kind of sucks right now. Is like a lot of people gave up this time for me. Carolina came out. John took things over. I mean, and knowing that I didn't finish and that I let them down, that part really kind of sucks.
Yeah, that's a raw emotion.
Yeah, very much so. So, I mean, yeah, I'll recover. I'll hit the sauna. I'll go and take care of my body and whatever. But
maybe cry just a little bit.
Yeah, but
in the sauna.
I really want to get back and just take care of things and pull my weight on stuff. So,
heard. What's next for you physically?
Honestly, I think that probably just going to lift a lot of weights and just focus on business and whatnot for now. I think that doing this while trying to open the restaurant is fun, and I want to do stuff like that. But I also, I need to tilt things back into a direction of more time for things. Like it was very, I was off kilter for a bit, and I was making time for stuff and love all that. But now I need a little more time to recover and just have more time for myself for stuff. So I'll go do a marathon, 100-miler, Ironman, all of that in the future. But right now, there's no timeline on anything.
Yeah. I like that you put marathon and 100-miler in the same category now. It's all just a run.
What's next for you?
Man, probably Ironman. That'll probably be the next time I'm on the podcast.
When do you think
that'll probably be together? We'll do that together.
Yeah, I was gonna say, when do you think you'll do it?
That's probably at least a year out.
Yeah.
I've done the big ones that I wanted to check off for now, so I'm just going to get really complacent for a couple years and, put on 20 pounds of extra weight that I don't need. No,
a big bulk season.
Yeah, maybe 4x48 actually. Talking about that.
No one on the podcast has ever met overweight Evan with a high body fat percentage. I think maybe we need an episode. Do you know about the Super Size Me documentary experiment?
No.
So there's this physical trainer, like health guy, that basically was like, all of my clients say it's so hard to lose weight and you don't understand because you've been fit your whole life. And so he got a film crew and did this documentary called Super Size Me, where he would go to McDonald's every day and he would do their super size option. Oh, dang it, we lost the camera.
R.I.P.
And he would go to McDonald's every day and do the Super Size Me thing, and they would upgrade his food. And so he would eat just a ton of calories and wouldn't work out and got super overweight. And then to prove his clients that like he is empathetic, and then he lost all of the weight to show them, look, you can too.
Oh, wow.
So
that's crazy.
I think that's what you should do.
No, I'm happy where I am.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let's wrap it up because we lost the camera.
Yep. Sounds good.
Thanks for coming on, Evan.
Yeah, man. It was a wild ride to get here again.
Yeah. I'm glad we did it.
Yeah.
See ya.